cloak, street gospel, light of the temple. Sword swing, killer live from the ghetto. The hood messenger, let them know hell's close. Black burial, the devil in a black cloak.
Yo, what is up? Welcome to the Street Gospel Podcast. I'm your host, Day One, and this is episode number... Yo, Cam, what episode is this? 25. Episode 25. So if you caught the last episode, we had a bonus episode with Khalil Roundtree, UFC light heavyweight. A good episode. It was a Zoom episode. I know a lot of people out there don't like the Zoom stuff, but hey, man, the dude fights in the UFC. I mean, I didn't have no choice. I had to get him when I could get him. So I got Khalil Roundtree. Definitely was a plus for us. And then episode 24, if you caught episode number 24, it was with Taco God. A great episode, okay? Don't get freaked out because he's calling himself a god. He's just the god of a crunchy, cheese-filled, meat-filled, lettuce and tomato-filled corn tortilla. That's it, okay? So don't get all crazy on me. But anyways, so to get to the business today, I'm very excited for this guest, man. And, you know, gotta play just a little music to introduce him. I don't want nothing too crazy. I mean, this guy, I've probably could have played anything from Modest Yahoo to old school hard rock to oldies to hip hop. I mean, there's a lot of things I could have played, but we're gonna keep it on the chill right here. This is a guy I've known ever since he was a little kid growing up in Bell next to Croton Avenue Elementary. And I think that's where we first met. And then, you know, I seen him grow up to a great man. He is a husband. He's a father now, which is crazy. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then he is a rabbi. I mean, he's done it all, man. So I want to welcome to the Street Gospel Podcast my old friend and your new friend. Let's give it up for my man, Erick Peretz.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
What is up, man?
A whole lot. You said the father thing, a whole lot has been up.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, let's just get into that real quick.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I see Erick, and he has, you know, his wife. I think I've been following you on the gram for a long time, and you've been married for a while. And all of a sudden, I see like 3 kids.
3 kids.
Is it 3 little girls?
2 girls and 1 boy.
2 girls and 1 boy.
Yeah.
I mean, so, bro, let's just tell me how that happened, because I don't know how that happened.
So it's still an active case, so I can't get into the specifics
okay.
But basically, some issues took place with my nephew and his significant other, and some things went down. He ended up in the hospital. He woke up 5 days later and was tripping out. Like, what am I doing here? We told him what happened. He was just freaking out, and then I felt bad for the kids. I didn't want the kids though. I want them now. I love them.
Right.
I just, I enjoyed my life. It was comfortable. It was without kids. We've been married 11 years and just enjoying our lives.
Right.
And thought about kids. Just didn't think it would just be dumped on me like that.
Right.
And, my niece Tiffany had them, and she lives in TJ.
Okay.
So she couldn't keep them because of the jurisdiction. And so she's calling me crying, freaking out. I got to take the kids back. I don't know what's going to happen. And me just like wanting to be comfortable, just, they'll be all right. They'll be in foster care, whatever. And I hung up. I felt guilty. And I was just like, my wife staring at me, like not saying anything, just wanting me to make the decision.
Wow.
And so I felt guilty. And I was like, you know what? Call whoever you need to call. Give me their number, whatever. Let them know I'm willing to take on the kids.
Wow.
So my wife got happy. I thought I was going to get them that day or that weekend. It didn't happen. It took about a month for us to get for us to get them. But I think if I would have got them that weekend, I wasn't ready for it.
Wow.
I needed that month to prepare. Yeah. So they're 3, 4, and 5. And
handful.
Yeah. And it's just they saw what took place with the parents.
Yeah.
The whole situation, and it's just we got them. We love them. We're all adjusting to this, and it's been really fun. Crazy, hectic times, but it's been really fun.
So your wife was in from the jump?
Oh, yeah, she was in.
That's crazy because, I mean, the wife takes on a lot, you know, when there's children. So, I mean, for her to say, yeah, it's good to go, I mean, the pressure was on you then.
Yeah, it was just basically my niece was calling me, and you know, my family calls me a lot when issues. I'm like, I don't even want to answer my phone because I know it's an issue. Like, don't even call me. Like, yeah, they call me to say hi. Usually they'll text, but when they call, it's like, okay, something's going down.
Right.
And then right away when she told me what was going down, I was just like, oh man, this is crazy. This is huge. And that whole situation was just insane. But
it sounds wild. So, I mean, instant fatherhood.
Yeah.
And it's not just one, it's 3.
3 kids. Yeah.
So it's got to be a little challenging.
It is. The older one, it's funny because she's more like me. She likes her peace. She likes her calmness. And where she came from was chaotic.
Yeah.
And so she's always asking, can we have quiet time? Can we have, can we just have chill out time? And I'm like, yeah,
sure.
I love that. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And the other 2 are just like, they're still kind of finding themselves in the midst of like what's taking place.
Right.
But the older one is like, she's finding her peace. And it's funny now because when people see them that know the kids, they're like, these are not the same kids. Like,
wow.
These kids, they can't be the same kids. Like,
were they wild?
They were wild.
Okay.
They were wild. But we talk to them. We communicate with them, trying to get them to open up about their feelings, their emotions, letting them know it's okay. If you got to cry, it's okay. You're not in trouble.
Wow.
And so we've been working with them on that. And it's been, it's been a challenge, but it's just funny because when we take them, because they have to go to therapy, when we take them to the therapy, the therapist and all the people in the therapy sessions are just like, these kids are advanced.
Wow.
From when we first saw them to you guys getting them, like these are not the same kids. Like, what are you guys doing? I just share with them, like, try the best that we can do.
Just loving on them.
Yeah, we love them. We let them know, like, express yourselves. And that's something I didn't have growing up. Express yourself.
Yeah.
And even though, like, what I try to do is when I ask them to do something, okay, you might not like it, but let me know you don't like it.
Right.
That doesn't mean you don't have to do it anymore. Just let me know.
Yeah.
Like, express yourself. And if I feel it's a valid reason, yeah, it's valid. I get it. Okay, but you still got to do it.
Right.
Like, I don't give them a whole lot of chores. Fix your bed and put your dishes in the sink and put your toys away.
Right.
Other than that, they're just kids. I'm not going to throw all these expectations on them. I'm going to get upset.
Right.
So we're learning. My wife and I are learning and just.
It's a very honorable thing. I mean, I got to give you guys props because I had a friend one time tell me, you should think about, your kids are grown, my kids are grown, and you should think about adopting some kids. And I can't.
Yeah,
it sounds very noble. It sounds very, but I realize the task that it is.
It's a huge task.
It's a lot of, these kids are bringing a lot of baggage, and it's going to take a lot of time. I don't know if I have enough energy to do something like that because it would take a lot. And I realize how much it takes. Melissa's a teacher. She sees kids all the time, and she's just like, no, it would take a lot, and we always give props to people that take on kids or family members' kids and raise them as their own because it is very noble and honorable thing.
Yeah, it's nothing I've ever looked into or thought I wanted to do. It's just the opportunity was there, and it happened. It wasn't just like, yeah, let's adopt, let's go do this. It's just like, and the social workers right now, they're like, you guys are amazing. Like, if we had just a handful of you guys. So they're like, after this is all done, do you guys want to continue? I'm like, I don't know. I might need like a break for 2 years or something. But as long as we have the kids, we're going to invest in them, do whatever we need to do for them. And it's just, like I said, it's not something I ever thought of doing. I never thought I wanted to do it.
Right.
It just happened, and I was, okay, let's do it.
I always trip out on that because the investment you make in kids, they'll always remember that.
Yeah.
Wherever they go, they're going to remember you and your wife and the investment you put in their lives and whatever you teach them, whatever they learn, they can always look back upon that time and be like, yeah, this guys, they were amazing.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned the way you were brought up, and it's a trip because I've known your family forever, right? I mean, it's got to be.
I think since I was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's got. How old are you now?
41.
41. Yeah, I mean, you were little. So I mostly knew your sister Tina.
Yeah.
You know, rest in peace. Tina was fun. Angie is crazy, which I'll talk about Angie in a minute. I love Angie, man. I seen her a few years back, I think in at a store out here or something like that, and I was like, what the heck? So we talked to her a little bit. But Angie, I love Angie because I think a few times she backed up Melissa a few times. And,
she's down.
Yeah, Angie's down.
She'll have her issues with you, but she'll back you up.
Yeah, I mean, there's been times where Angie's just like, yeah, Angie. If you're a friend of Angie, you have somebody that's going
a friend for life.
Yeah, she'll go toe to toe with anybody for you. And then I knew your brothers, Tony and Ronnie and Sukos, and I grew up with them. But you're really different than all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, they were they were involved in a lot of different things. I mean, I know your brothers were from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
My family was from the neighborhood too, and I always trip out because Eric, you were the youngest one. I know you're the tallest and biggest one now,
Yeah.
dude. It's kind of funny, but you were just quiet and kind of just to the side a little bit, right? And nobody really paid attention to Eric, right?
Yeah.
How was that growing up?
I think the focus was always on my brothers. Even with my mom, it was like my brothers. Like, what are they doing? What's going on? You know, when my brothers grew up with my dad, I grew up with my mom. I was a baby when my mom left my dad. So the kids, my mom was just like, okay, I'm taking the girls and the baby. And so I grew up with my mom, and I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember, you know, when David was introduced into my family. Like
your stepdad.
Yeah, my stepdad. Those are the things that I remember. But I just remember feeling like, I don't know, I didn't belong. Like there was some kind of, I guess, set apartness. Like I just didn't fit in with the family. Like, where do I belong? I was always with my Aunt Veronica more, but I just didn't feel like this was my family. I don't know why. I've always felt that. And I mean, my brother will make fun of me sometimes. He'll be like, yeah, you're not our brother, like messing around. But then he'll tell, no, we were just playing with you and stuff like that. But I just never really felt the connection. And I don't know if it was because of my stepdad. Like, a lot of people don't know. Like, we grew up together, and a lot of people don't know, like, there was a lot of, like, verbal abuse from him on towards me, like, always putting me down. I shouldn't have been born, just things. So there was already that disconnect. Like, I'm not gonna, like, I don't feel connected to you at all. So I've disconnected myself from my family and just, like, wanting to do my own thing. You mentioned my brothers growing up in the neighborhood. It was like I despised all that. Like, but I guess the more I despised it, the more I was going that route. And I just didn't, like, I was looking for myself, looking for who I was, not who my brothers were. Like you said, everybody knew me because of my brothers or my family.
Right.
I was looking for me, for my identity.
Wow. Because I remember, like, I knew Ronnie really good because we lived, I mean, you guys, what street was that? That was...
We lived on Corona.
Yeah, you guys lived on Corona.
Yeah.
We lived on Orchard, which there was only one street, Bear Street, that separated that.
Yeah.
So I would see Ronnie hanging out with Ronnie, and Ronnie was wild, dude, right? He was from the neighborhood, and then I seen Tony. Tony was maybe more milder than Ronnie. Yeah. And then Tina was like, when I remember Tina, she was older than me.
Yeah.
And then she was like, I remember the first time I seen her, she was like punk rocked out.
Yeah.
And so and then Angie was like I said, Angie was down, and then you had your brother Sukos, which I kind of knew him too from like the music scene a little bit and got to know him better. And then it was you. So I always seen you as, like you said, I would see you trying to fit in somewhere. You know, your brothers were gang banging and everything, and I seen like one time you in the Cutlass LA hat, and then I would see you next time and you had like a mohawk and you were like into rock and different stuff, and then their styles kind of just always changed. Was that what was going on with you? Like you just
I was a skater and I hung out around with party crews, and then I was a punk rocker.
Yeah.
And that was basically like my scene, like the punk rock scene.
right.
And that's where I felt I fit in. It's just a bunch of people that didn't fit in anywhere. And I started drinking like at 12, 13.
Wow.
Yeah. And I by the time I was 15, I was a full-blown alcoholic. And I needed to drink every day. And that was my scene. So I fit in perfectly, drunk, partying, just, But in all that, I felt alone.
Did the alcohol allow you to open up? Because like I said, you're kind of a quiet kid.
That was like, that alcohol was, I was letting it define me.
Right.
Like, everybody wanted to hang out with me. I was popular. People wanted to come hang at my house, come in and out, whatever. But even in the midst of everybody being there, I felt so alone. I knew I didn't belong there. I knew this wasn't me. And I always heard that voice, like, you know where you belong. I knew where I belonged.
Right.
I just wanted to find myself. I didn't want to go back to the congregation or anything because that was my family.
Right.
I didn't want to do none of that because I wanted to find who I was.
Wow.
And ultimately, I ended up finding it, but it took a lot. It took a lot.
I mean, so you had family that was involved with the church, and then you had family that was involved with the neighborhood, and that's two very strong pulling on both sides. Come over here, come over here. How do you find, in the midst of all that, the Jewish faith?
So it was funny because I'm talking to my dad one day, and we're sitting down. I go visit him. His wife is sick.
Your real dad?
Yeah, my real father.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there, and he's asking me about, like, what I'm doing and how am I doing, and we never had a really good relationship. And so he started to get sick, and I'm talking to him. I'm just sharing with him, like, hey, you know what? You're my dad. Even though I didn't have you growing up, like, I'm done with all that, the past. I don't know what's true. I don't know what's not. I don't know any of that. But right now, you're my dad, and I still need you as a father. Like, I still need a father in my life.
Right.
And so we, like, squashed everything, and we moved forward. So he's asking me about, like, what am I doing? And I share with him, and he looks around, like, if there's people listening in or something, and he's like, we're Jewish, right? And it's funny because I'm like, you jerk, dude. Like, why didn't you ever tell us? And he would tell me about my grandmother. She would go to the Catholic church on Friday nights just to light the candles, and then she would leave.
So real Jewish.
Yeah.
Like, not converted.
Not converted.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Because I know your brothers and family for many years,
yeah.
And I mean, you would think they're Mexican, American, tried and true.
Yeah. And that's like the crazy part.
So your brothers are living a lie. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's funny, but like it's just like looking back on everything, like the way I felt, like trying to find myself, it all started to make sense to me. It all just started like everything just started fitting.
Isn't that weird? Because you hear like people and they do these like ancestry.com, right? And they figure out who they really are, or maybe pieces like, I'm like,
so much.
I'm Irish, or I'm this. That's why this, or that's why that. Is that why you felt? Did you feel like that? Like, oh, that's why I'm thinking like this, or that's how come I feel like this.
I started like putting pieces together. I remember one day, so I got kicked out of the house when I was like 14, 15. And the thing, how that happened was so weird because they're like, okay, it's summer vacation. We're going to go drop you off at your sister Angie's house. Angie's only like 3-4 years older than me.
Yeah.
She lived on her own like all her life, had her own places. And I was just like, you're crazy. Like, you're just 3 years older than me. I'm 15, dude. Like, how are you doing this? But I remember they dropped me off and they're like, just for the summer, we're going to pick you up. And the summer was over. They never came back.
Wow.
And I'm just like, cool, whatever. I'm partying, I'm drinking, I could do whatever I want. I remember going back to my family's house where we lived. They had moved to Linwood at that time. And I remember going back and the house was empty. Like, nobody was there anymore.
Wow.
And I felt like abandoned. Like, I just felt so lost for like 10 minutes.
Do you think that by the time they got to you, they were just finished? Like, they didn't want to deal with no more kids?
I think so, because I wasn't like my brothers or acting like my brothers, but I was going down some kind of similar route. And I think they were just like, especially with my stepdad, just hating me, not liking me. He put on this facade, when we're at the congregation and everything looked fine and perfect. Right. But when we were alone, it was a whole different story.
Did he over do it with you? You
Yeah,
felt? I mean,
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
a known
I mean, there
thing?
was times where like we were at the church and we were with Ronald Palmer and Cindy, and they would help clean up. And he would take me to the bathroom and he would like whoop me. I remember counting how many times he actually whooped me in the bathroom.
Wow.
It was like 45 times. And I remember Ron stepping in and he was like, dude, like that's enough. Like a lot of people don't know, but they kind of took me in and I like was staying with them like when it was vacation time and stuff. And like they were trying to pull me away from that. And I love that family because of that. And, but it was just crazy. Like just all the things in between. I'm trying to find myself. I'm trying to like figure out what's going on with me, and all this stuff is like pulling me away. Like the very people that are supposed to be drawing me closer to God are actually forcing me away from it. So I would like wanted nothing to do with it.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty intense, bro.
Yeah.
To be the youngest and probably get treated the worst because your older siblings could just, we're out of here.
Yeah.
Right? And just leave. But you couldn't leave.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all
I
you
think
had.
and that's where they just kind of like, okay, go live with your sister. These are the things you want to do. They never, like, realistically never try to help me. Like, I saw them trying to help my brothers and stuff like that. I didn't feel that. And I always just, like, I did my own thing. Like, just.
So you just existed.
Yeah.
You were just there.
Yeah.
So you're talking to your father, your biological father. You realize you're Jewish. And a light bulb goes off.
Yeah. It starts clicking. Like everything starts making sense. Why I'm going down this route, why I'm doing it. And it's just like, I was like, wow. Like, because I would read the scriptures. I would like study them. I just like differently. And it was just like, okay, I read about, Samuel. And I was like, okay, how do I serve in this capacity? Like, I don't have that. And then I remember just things started opening up. And, when I started going to where my rabbi is with his congregation, like things just started making sense.
What drew you, though? I mean, it opened up some doors, but what was the initial thing that says, yeah, this is it for me? Everybody has some sort of encounter, right? I always talk about the encounter. Yeah, what was your encounter with the Jewish faith that just said, okay, this appeals to me? Because how old were you?
Shoot. I think I was like 25.
So 25, you're already figuring yourself out. You kind of get it. But it's still pretty young. A lot of people are still trying to figure out who they are. Yeah. And what was it the thing that said, yeah, that's what I want to do?
I had a lot of questions about the scripture. And I think you could relate where if somebody didn't have an answer that was a spiritual leader, it was just, okay, that doesn't matter. Or it's not a salvation issue. Or it's not, it's not a big issue, so don't worry about it.
Right.
And I think too many times with spiritual leaders is they don't point you in the right direction. They just think they have to have the answer. And if they don't have the answer, it just doesn't matter. So when I went to the synagogue, all my questions, without even asking, started getting answered. Just like questions I just threw in the back of my head and be like, well, when the time is right, it's going to happen. It was like somebody just pulling out all those questions, like literally while I'm sitting down, and just answers. And I'm just like blown away. Like, okay, that makes so much sense. Like, but it was just like legit questions. And I was just like, wow, just things started, like context, everything. It just started connecting.
It was an appeal to you. Did you have something like when you were younger in school where you can kind of look back and say you were a great learner? Because
no.
See, that's a trip to me, because I have to read scripture 2 or 3 times. Yeah. Right? And that's what, even regular books, like I have to read it, go over it, or I'll read it and be like, what did I just read? And go back and read it again. Yeah. And then I'll look in the the context of that scripture or whatever. Yeah. But any book, anything I have to read, I really have to be super, super focused in that book. But it's a trip that you saying that it just started clicking. It just started clicking. And going back to what you said about, I wish more leaders, when they didn't know something, just would admit they don't have the answer.
Yeah.
but I know where to get it, right? Because it's so easy to find the answer.
And that's what I try to do, like with my students, with the people that are in my classes. If I don't have the answer, I'll point them to a teacher that can help them.
Right.
That's more learned in that area, that's more studied. I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
One, the people don't belong to me.
Right.
Like, I'm just, as long as you're here, I'm going to do the best I can with you. And I always tell my students, you're not going to take me to the next level. That you're going to advance. I'm like the kindergarten teacher. You're getting ready for junior high school. Like, you're going to go to the next level. Like, and I get it. You have a pastor, you have one rabbi or leader of the congregation, but you should surround yourself with many teachers. I'm not afraid to allow my students to do that. That's how you learn. That's how I learned and grew.
Right. So surrounding yourself with many teachers. I mean, I like mixed martial arts. I'll go to this school to learn something, and then I'll go visit another school, and I'll be like, I like that, and I'll take that. Yeah. I'll take a piece of this, piece of that. It's great to surround yourself with just multifaceted people, and I can kind of glean from each person something and learn from each person something. Yeah. So you decided to go the Jewish route, faith, right? Does your brothers tell you anything when you start showing up and saying, hey, we're Jewish now, guys, just to let you know, and you come in and
No, they don't say anything. It's funny because somebody asked my brother Tony. They were like, hey, what's your brother doing? What's going on? And he was like, he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing.
That's cool.
He's really smart. My brother Ronnie calls me, and he's doing really good.
It's good.
And he calls me, and he's like, hey, I'm going to get married, and I'm going to do this. I'm like, who's going to do your wedding? And he's like, you are. Like,
nice.
You're going to do it. And I'm just like, all right. And so we talk, and he's just like, he's trying to get his life together. He doesn't know how to.
Right.
And he's working on that. And it was funny because, I always looked up to them. Even though I didn't like the whole gang thing, I always looked up to them. And it was just funny because I got a chance kind of to be that big brother to him when I was talking to him. And just, I was so proud of him. He's trying. Yeah. He's like the biggest thing he was proud of was like, this is the longest I've been out. Like, and I don't want to go back.
Wow.
I remember when he was trying to go back. And this was like weeks after like just 2 weeks. Oh, I'm tired of being out of jail. Like, I need to go back in. And to hear him say those things, I was like, I'm proud of you. And he just he shed a little tear. And he was just like, man, it feels good to hear that from some family, but genuinely hear it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow.
Because you could pretty much imagine you didn't hear it for a long time.
Yeah.
So he's older than you. He probably never really heard that from anybody. Yeah. And granted, he probably wasn't living the best life for anybody to be proud of, but to be able to say, hey, I'm proud of you, and hear that from his brother. Yeah. And for you, it must have been like, I'm playing Big Brother. Yeah, and it's funny, which you're a lot taller than him.
Yeah, it's funny because even with my brother Tony, it was some issues that popped up and just some really deep issues. And I told my wife, I was like, we need to go down to my brother's house. He's an hour away, but we need to go down to my brother's house. So I sat there, talked to him, and just showing up was just like, wow, like, you do care. And it's just funny because these are my older brothers that I should be running to, that I should be looking to. And I love them. But it's like, it's just the roles, how they reverse, and I'm just tripping out, and I'm just like, oh. But I think a lot of it, where that comes from, is trying to be there for the people that need somebody to be there for them. Right. Because I always look at, okay, I didn't have this. Instead of trying to go out and look for it, how can I become that for somebody that doesn't have it?
That's good.
And the same thing I try to do with the kids. I'd never had anybody sit down and talk to me and say, okay, what's going on? Not you're doing bad or you're bad or
right.
I already knew I was bad. I knew I was doing bad. But how do I change?
Yeah.
I didn't have that. I was, okay, this is how you change, go. Or approach the altar, that. And it's like, but show me how to change.
Right.
And I didn't have that. And so with the kids, I'm trying to get them to express their feelings, their emotions. Even when they're not right, at least get it out. Let us understand what's going on. That way we could work on it. And even with my teaching, with people, I'm real. I'm just myself. I'm not trying to be crazy and hear some crazy revelation. I like to use my life stories.
That's good.
The pains, the hurts, and I like people like that.
There's something. There's no reliving your life, right? It happened. There's pain. There's hurt. There's stuff that's never going to come back, right? I think when people get to the point of accepting that, right? You get adults trying to still find the love from their parents or the love from their whoever, are trying to relive and want that back. And then you get adults that say, I'm never going to get that back. But what's the consolation prize here? The consolation prize is everything I didn't get, maybe I can give it back.
Yeah.
There's something with that, right? Where you feel a little fulfillment, like I can be a father to these kids. Yeah. I can be a big brother to my older brothers. Yeah. And there's something in that, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's where I'm at. It's just like, okay, I like you said, I could either sit here and try to figure out how to get this back. I wasn't looking for my dad to take me out to ball games and, we'll sit down and watch baseball games, and I loved it. Like, okay, I never had this. This is cool. But at the end of the day, okay, I'm an adult. I got to go to work. I got to do the things I need to do. I'm not going to try to stay there and live in those moments. Yeah, I'm glad they happen, but I still got to move on. And I think a lot of times people don't move from that. Right. They find it and they get stuck there. And they end up in broken relationships. I mean, that's, a lot of relationships looking for that love, not realizing that the love I really needed was from God himself. Knowing where I belonged, but running from it. Because realistically, I didn't want to face what was really going on inside of me. And that was like my biggest struggle. Facing and accepting who I was. And when I accepted who I was, that, okay, I wasn't loved by the people that should have loved me, but I still was loved by God. Like, coming to terms with who I really was is what really broke me.
I think a lot of people have a hard time with that. It's very hard to be honest about that stuff. Or, like you said, you got to come to terms with yourself. People either project that out in whatever ways, or they put it on somebody else. Yeah. And it's very hard to really say, I didn't get that. And I don't have that. Yeah. And I'm searching for that, right?
Yeah. One of the biggest things for me was me and my wife, before we got married, like, we would be on and off, on and off, on and off. Like, I think, man, we've been together for 16, 17 years. We've been married for 11. But, like, throughout those first couple of years, we were just on and off. Like, yeah, I loved you. Okay, no, I don't love you. No, yeah, I do. And it was just like back and forth. And it was like more me, like, because of where I was.
Right.
And I remember crying out to God, like, I just asked God, why do you love me? Like, why? Like, I need to know why. Like, you have to tell me why. Not that I was demanding it. I needed to know why God loved me. And I remember the first time I've ever heard him speak to me, like, on my own. He told me to call Leah and ask her. And then I stopped crying. I was like, that sounds crazy. What do you mean call this woman? Like, that sounds like some cheesy pickup line. Hey, God told me to call you. Tell me why you love me,
Christian mingle, bro. Yeah. It works every time.
I was just like, I can't do that.
Right.
And so I struggled with that, and I'm crying out. I'm crying. Like, God, you got to tell me. And I kept on hearing that. And so I called her, and she answered the phone. I knew she would. And we're like small talk. Like, then she's finally like, okay, what do you want? Like, why'd you call? We broke up. Why did you call?
Right.
And I was like, what? Like, why do you love me? And she just said, like, she didn't say anything. She just said, no, it's too late. She didn't say, I don't love you. She didn't say anything like that. It was just like, no, it's too late. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, you have to tell me. And I'm like begging her to tell me. Like, and then finally I told her why and what was going on. And the words that she spoke to me, that's what really broke me, because I didn't hear her voice. I heard God speaking directly to me. When we got together, I shared my life with her. Like, I never shared my life with anybody. I shared my life, everything that happened to me. Like, how I got hurt, what hurt me, the words spoken, all the things that broke me as a person. I shared my life with her. I felt comfortable.
So you're pretty vulnerable.
Yeah, I felt so comfortable doing that. And I remember the words that she spoke when I said, so tell me why you love me. The words that came out, like, I don't remember if I hung up the phone. I don't remember anything. I don't know if I was crying on the floor for like 5 minutes, 5 hours. Dude, I don't remember anything. But I remember hearing her. She goes, I know everything about you. What hurt you, your mess ups, your screw ups, everything, your pains, the people who hurt you, every single thing, like details. And she says, and with all that I know about you, I still love you. And it broke me. I just fell and I was just crying. I don't know if I hung up. I don't know if she hung up. I don't know what happened. I just was on the floor, and I realized through her, God was going to show me love. And
Wow.
I think so many times we're waiting for God to show up, but he shows up in people. And I want to be one of those people. Like with these kids, I want to be that person. I want to be the God they see, the God in me.
Right.
Not that I'm God, Taco God or anything. But not that I'm God.
Through you.
Yeah, but through me.
Right.
Use me. And through that brokenness, through that pain, he has. And that's what helped heal. And I think too many people don't want to confront that. Like it's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, because I tease you, and we talked about this before, how you grew up rough.
Yeah.
And maybe not as rough as your brothers with the gangs and in jail and all that stuff, or even with Tina with battling cancer, or Angie or anything like that. But you grew up rough as the youngest one. I tease you about, I can remember them shooting up your house when you guys lived on Gage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like,
I almost got shot in the head.
right? And I teach you about going from drive-bys to rabbis. And most people will laugh about that, but it's literally it's true. Yeah. And I tell people, when I told my buddy that I was having you on and we were talking about it, it's crazy to go from that lifestyle and then go to a lifestyle that's so disciplined, and so structured, I would say.
Yeah.
And maybe because you never had that in your life or never had the love, and now you find the love with your wife, Leah, and then you find, God through the Jewish faith and the structure it gave you. I mean, that's for a guy that never had that in his life. I mean, here you go. Here's a woman that's going to love you no matter what. Here's a God that's going to love you. Now, almost to the point where I got the structure, I got the love. Was that all you were really looking for that your entire life?
I think so. I think a lot of it had to do with looking for something that's going to keep me stable. I was so unstable. Like my attitude, everything about me can change in a moment. You didn't know what drunk you were going to get. Like it could have been the angry one. It could have been a nice one. It could have been like, hey, everybody wanted, let's go do something, or leave me alone.
So you were the gentle giant sometimes, but then you were the Andre the Giant.
Yeah. I think a lot of times it was more gentle, but it was more because of the pain.
A lot of built up.
I didn't want to express that pain or throw it upon others. I remember at 5 years old, I literally remember this at 5, and I look back and I was talking to my niece Tiffany. I was like, no 5-year-old should say this. But I remember saying to myself, when I grow up and if I ever have kids, I don't want to treat them this way.
Wow.
5 years old, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I look back, I'm like, that's crazy. Like,
you already knew.
The mental abuse, the verbal abuse, the physical abuse. It was more the verbal abuse that really broke me. And I remember somebody praying for me, and they were telling me like the enemy tried to destroy me, but I just thought it was like, that's what they all say. But they got into detail, and I was just blown away because this person didn't know my life.
Wow.
And it's just funny how I see that now looking back. It was the enemy from the beginning trying to destroy me because the potential that even the enemy probably saw. And it blows me away.
Yeah, the story you have to tell after all that is amazing. And then the potential, like you said, of being a father, being a teacher, now being the light in the middle of your family.
Yeah.
I mean, literally in the middle of your family. I mean, where your older brothers were, look to you, where, your sister Tina, passed away. And I seen your post and you were right there.
Yeah.
With her.
Yeah.
And I mean, God used a little brother.
Yeah.
It's like David or like Joseph, right?
Yeah.
In the Bible. And God takes the little brother that, don't worry about him. And then somehow he kind of ends up saving his whole family.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I feel sometimes. And I don't let it get to me like, oh, look at God's using me. I just, like, honestly, being a rabbi is like, it humbled me so much. Coming from a place where people want titles, like the title, I don't care about it.
Right.
It's getting to do what I do. And I honestly, I feel my best when I'm doing this, when I'm studying, when I'm teaching. Like I feel my best when I'm teaching, and it brings like like so much joy to me. Like, man, this is what I was meant to do. And I know that without a shadow of a doubt. Like, this is what I was meant to do. The funny thing is, like, even when I was 25, 26, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I didn't. If it was up to me, I probably still would have been a drunk right now. Like, and still looking for myself. But I know this is where God wants me. And that's like the most amazing thing for me. Like all the things I didn't want, like I want, because they're not me, it's God.
I think that's the best feeling, right?
Yeah.
I tell people as you get older, for me, as I got older, I was comfortable with myself now. It was okay to be who I am.
Yeah.
I don't have to please this person or want these people to like me at church or at the job. It's like, this is who I am. And I'm not saying I'm the best guy. I'm in, a project till the day I die, right?
Yeah.
I'm always evolving.
It's you.
But it's me, and I'm comfortable with
Yeah.
that. There's something to say about when you find your path and what God's called you to do. Nothing else really matters.
Yeah, and it's not like, I hear great teachers, and it's like I like what they have to say, but it's like I don't have to be like them. I'm comfortable with the way I teach, the way I am, the way God brings His revelation to me. Like I love it. Like
right.
It's like, and I love that about God. It's everything's unique with each individual. Like we're all children, but with each child, there's that unique relationship.
So awesome, man. I was thinking about when I was getting you, and so our faiths are a little bit different, but I thought there is something to be learned from the Jewish faith, the structure, the discipline. On top of that, you're a vegan, and I was just like, well, okay, dude, what else? Why do you want to torture yourself? No, I'm just kidding. But my thing is like, there's something to be learned from the Jewish faith that I think we can take, and that's that discipline. And on top of that, the vegan. I mean, your thing on Instagram is the vegan rap.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty cool. But what can normal non-Jewish people take from the Jewish faith that's just like we can apply to our lives?
The biggest takeaway, like for me, when I really started studying and learning, it's the uniqueness of relationship. Not just corporately, it's the uniqueness of you and God. Like, who are you and God? Don't worry about who's next to you, who's in front of you. It's like, yeah, we could come together and worship, but even in that, it's the uniqueness of how you worship, how you can express yourself. And I felt growing up that I didn't have, that expressiveness. And this is the way we have to do things. But being even in the midst of a lot of people and worshiping, it's like there's still a uniqueness of God, like pointing you out, like, okay, me and you right now. And I really, really believe that that's what it's all about. It's not like self-improvement, but it's coming before God and allowing Him to improve you. And one of the things I learned in Judaism is you're always improving, mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. It's always an ascent. And when you read the Psalms, it always says a psalm of ascent. It's meaning you should be excelling, you should be growing. Even when you fall, you should be getting up, you should be moving forward. And I learned that even through the structure, like, though you fall, don't look to be elevated to that place where you've fallen from, because it might be further, it might be a little bit back, but it's something to learn. I learned that even in repentance, there's something to learn. What am I repenting from? What am I repenting for? It's not just like, why did God save me? What did He save me from? It's, what did He save me for? And it's looking for that forward movement, that progress. Okay, stop teaching me about sin. How do I move forward? And I love that in the realm of Judaism. It's, okay, we'll focus on you were a sinner, but let's completely remove you from that, because that's not who you are. Yeah, you may fall and you may sin, but you should consider yourself a righteous person now, not a consistent sinner. And I think when you're stuck in that consistent sin, you're always looking on the self-improvement. Like, how do I make myself better? You can. God has to do that. But how do I move past this? Right. I think when I grew, some of the teachers I heard when we were in a church, and I'm not bashing anybody, but like when you focus on a sin, you kind of keep the people in sin. Like, how do you teach them to move beyond that point? And I love where I'm at now because it taught me to move past that. It taught me to look at me, to evaluate myself. And I love the book of Leviticus. Like, that's my favorite book because it's always like every offering, everything you bring represents you.
Right.
It doesn't represent anything else. It represents you. And so when you bring that, it just shows you deserve to die, not this sacrifice. And it points you to ultimately something greater.
Right. Because I read Leviticus recently. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of offering, a lot of, and I was thankful that I don't have to do that stuff, you know, I mean, for my part, but I'm like, Lord, like that was a ton of things to really have to be focused on. And even when I was reading this week, you know, I was in Numbers and there were some things like that again. And I'm reading that and I was thinking about the podcast today and I was like, man, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is a very, you know, first month, 14th day, all this, you know, all this stuff. And I was just like, so I was really challenged by that. And I like what you said, what it all boils down to. And I posted this not too long ago. What it all boils down to is you and God.
Yeah.
Fellowships are gonna change. Yeah. Move on. People are gonna change, right? Move on. Movements, revivals, whatever you want to call it, things change. But what is consistent? What the consistent thing is your devotion to God's word and your devotion to a prayer life with God and ultimately your relationship with God. Yeah. When it all boils down, when everything settles, you better hope that that's the anchor, right?
No, it's so true. The outside elements outside of you are consistently changing.
Right.
Like it's always evolving, changing, whatever. But it's like you said, it's between you and God. Consistency between you and God. The discipline between you and God. And yeah, you're gonna mess up, but it's one of the things that I was taught going to the synagogue is before the ark where the Torah is. There's these words in Hebrew and English. It says, "Know before whom you stand," and that's the presence of God. Consistently know before whom you stand. And that's what keeps me humble, is knowing that everything I do is before the presence of God. Everything. Like, and it's extremely humbling. Like, I always tell my congregation, when I'm out on the street, I'm very cautious of what I do. Like, if I cut somebody off, I have to think, is that person going to show up to the synagogue one day and be like, that dude's a rabbi? Like, you know, I you can ask my wife, I'm very cautious of what I do. And it's not like I'm living an anxious life. It's just like, what if I misrepresent him?
Right.
And that's like the scariest part, how we misrepresent him. And people do it all the time without a thought.
Yeah.
But it's like that's in the back of my head. How am I representing him? Because my job as a spiritual leader is to draw people closer to them, not push them away from him. And that's like constantly on my mind. Okay, how am I benefiting this person today through my words, my actions, whatever it is? How am I drawing them closer, not bringing them apart, away from God?
It's a rough way to live. I mean, I'm not, and I don't mean that in a bad sense, but it is. I shouldn't say rough way. It's a disciplined way. It's a hard way of life to constantly. I got to watch myself. Yeah. Down to the point of, I mean, I'm the worst at that. You know, I mean, people cut me off, and I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean? But it's very difficult, and that's my prayer almost every day. Let me be conscious.
Yeah.
Every second of my actions, of my words, of my thoughts. It's very hard, especially with your thoughts, right? Because things just pop in your head, and you're just like, oh man. But to be conscious of everything you're saying, doing, your action, it takes a lot to really focus.
It's a self-evaluation every day. It's looking at, okay, my thing is, how can I improve myself even better from yesterday? Like, how can I become better? A better father, a better rabbi, a better husband, a better teacher, whatever it is. Because I think when you improve yourself, you make the people around you better. They make you better. And that's what we should be doing, making each other better in our faith, better. Ultimately, yeah, God does it all, but there are things that he requires of us.
Right.
And how can we, partake in that? How can we improve in that? And that's, I was talking to somebody and he was like, oh, you like self-improvement? I was like, well, in the spiritual act, yeah, absolutely. Because we should be spiritually improving ourselves and ultimately physically as well. And when I went vegan, it was just like, it wasn't something I wanted to do at first. I started getting sick, and I was just, I just was eating chicken. When I ate beef, it wasn't sitting right with me. And one day I'm sitting there eating, and I'm like, you know what? I just had this thought, like, I'll try to go vegan. And I did it. It's been 6 years, and I haven't went back.
That's crazy.
Like,
it's crazy.
It's just like, I enjoy it, but there was something apart that, like, the food we eat, what we put into our body, and how we're doing it, that really had a physical effect on me and a spiritual effect. Like, things just started opening up. Like, it was kind of like a fasting.
Really?
And I was just like, wow. Like, there was like some revelation that God was giving me, and I was like, man, this is like, whoa, this is crazy.
Okay.
So it wasn't.
It was a continuous thought in your head that just by not having to eat meat or having maybe a desire in the beginning, and then you're just.
In the beginning, I think I craved more the flavor than I did the actual meat, the texture.
Yeah.
I mean, because when you come down to it, nobody really wants, okay, give me flavorless meat.
Yeah.
Like, who does that?
Right.
But it was the flavor. So, like, when I passed by a restaurant that smelled good, I started craving it. Like, and recently it was funny because me and my wife, I was like, you know what? I'm craving. I've been smelling. My neighbor's been barbecuing. It's getting hot. I was like, you know what? I'm craving. And then I was like, but the thought, like, I'm not craving the meat. It's the flavor. So I made something, and it was the flavor that did it for me. But, like, yeah, my taste changed. Like, everything, my taste, my body, when it wanted sugar, when I put sugar in my body, it was rejecting the sugar. Like, it was just crazy how my body, my desire that I wanted, everything changed. And it just, like, I honestly, like, just like I thought I would never foster kids, I thought I would never go vegan, like, ever. Like, all the things that I told my wife, I'm just going to stop saying the things I would never do because, like, they're happening. Like, but it was just funny.
Yeah, don't say something crazy, dude. Yeah. You know what I mean? God might put that on your plate, man.
For real.
So you become a rabbi. What does that entail, man? Because, we hear that and we hear this, we see it, the guy's a rabbi. But what does that entail, really? I mean.
So it's basically a spiritual guidance counselor. It's like helping people, guiding them through life.
So a teacher.
It's a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're teaching. You better make sure you know what you're teaching. You don't just, go out there and be a teacher.
But does somebody, anoint you, not anoint you, but in that realm.
So you're actually trained.
So you train.
So you do go to, like, yeshiva, which would be exactly the same to a seminary.
Okay.
So you do take those classes. The funny thing about that, because you asked me, do I like to study? Do I like in the beginning, like, I didn't graduate high school. Like, I hated school. Like, I love lockers because I could just throw all my books in there. You never caught me carrying a book. And I think a lot of that had to do with the way I was raised. Like, nobody teaching me anything. And so even when teachers got attached to me, I would push them away because I was like, this is going to require something of me, and open myself up, and I would push people away. And so even when it came to, like, starting to study, it was just like, okay, like, I'm getting too close. Like, I started pushing it back.
Really?
And I was just like, I can't. But something kept drawing me in. And I remember one day, I think I was like 25, 2005. I wanted to change my life. This is what I need to do. I didn't go nowhere. I asked the Lord, like, Lord, I need your help. Like, I didn't need to go to a congregation or anything. I just knew, like, right here, right now, it's me and you. Like, I need to change my life. And that was New Year's Day, 2005. And I gave my life to the Lord. I said, Lord, help me. And from that moment, I never went back. It was times I wanted to quit, but I just, like, I knew I couldn't. Like, I had to commit myself. And I remember coming down, we had a 2-story house. We moved to San Jacinto. We had a 2-story house. And I'm walking down the stairs, and I see all these books. I'm studying, and I had all these books, and I'm just like, wow. Like, I would have never thought that. It just took me back. Like, that was never me. I never thought this would be me. And it was just like, wow. So, like, yeah, even more so now, like, the study element is like.
So you crave it now?
I crave it.
So,
I crave to sit in teachings, not just be the teacher. Like, I want to sit in teachings. I want to hear people speak and share.
So you can learn to be a great student.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it sounds funny, but
yeah, I mean, the greatest teachers are the greatest students. Like, no doubt. Like, you can don't tell me you're a great teacher if you never want to learn anything. Like, you're not. The greatest teachers are the greatest students.
That's a good point.
The people who still sit and listen and take in and not think they become something.
Right.
Like, I don't think I'm anything. I don't care about the title. Honestly, when people don't call me rabbi, I'm like, I'm cool with that. I think you respect me more calling me by my name. I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, we walked in. I was okay. Did I call you
Yeah.
Rabbi Erick now? Or just call me Eric, man. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's not. It has nothing to do with that. It's like meeting the people where they're at and having that relationship and guiding them, and just even me myself. I get shy, dude. Like people, my wife is like, man, I get when I ask you Bible questions, like I don't want to ask you because like. And I'm like, why? Like, I'm not that guy, dude. I'm not.
Is it going to turn into like an 8-hour session?
Yeah. Like, I'm not that guy that I think I know it. I don't. And I don't know it all. But what I do know, I'll help with. But, like, when I sit in teachings from, like, other rabbis or something, I'm, like, quiet. And when they ask me a question, I'm just like, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't. Like, I'm here to learn. Don't ask me anything. I'm here to learn from you. Like,
right.
And
I think you said a couple great things there. I think you're constantly evolving. You're constantly learning, right? We're not done. And it's funny that you said that because, and then it's kind of like you against yourself. Like, am I better than I was yesterday? I can't tell you how many times people have come to the podcast and it's artists, it's people running for office, it's jiu-jitsu guys, fighters, skaters. And they come here and they say, you know, the key to success basically is to constantly outdo yourself or get a little bit better. So maybe it's not a full leap, or maybe you do fail, but you're failing at a different level
failing
now.
Forward.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I think about the fighters, and I was like, you're not getting knocked out against some tomato can, right?
Yeah.
You're getting knocked out against some of the best guys.
Yeah.
Does that mean you improve? Of course,
Yeah.
because I'm not fighting the same type of guys no more.
Yeah.
I'm fighting bigger, better guys, faster guys, stronger guys, more advanced guys. And if I get dropped, then hey, it's part of the game. Yeah. I'll be back. I'll learn from that. And I think that's been the story of the podcast. And that's kind of like what you're telling me now.
Yeah.
Constantly evolving, improving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we need to do that in anything, if in any kind of success, whether it be spiritual or whatever we're doing. Work, it should be improving, constantly improving.
You know, over the last week, there's been a lot of heightened things, and we'll kind of switch gears here, but I think it's important. There's a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
In Israel right now with the Palestinians in Israel. I think a lot of people don't really understand what's going on there.
Yeah.
You know, I think they think Jews and that live in Israel, they hate the Palestinians. It's not necessarily true.
No, it's not.
And there's a narrative being,
Yeah.
driven into young people. And I've talked to young people. I've talked to my son about this. I've talked to friends. And I was like, do you know what's really going on? It's not just about, Jews hate people or hate these people. They hate them. And they just constantly want to fight. And there's a whole story to that, right?
It was actually funny because the other day I had somebody tell me, like, the Jews own the media, the Jews own all this stuff. And I'm like, if they own the media, they think they would be bashing themselves? Like, come on. Like, it makes no sense.
Right.
Like, but yeah, there's a lot of conflict. And one thing I make a point to say is, like, I'm not anti-Arab. I'm not, this is about terror. Like, it's terrorists. Like,
Right.
when people were rioting and looting in the streets a couple of years ago, it's about terror.
Right.
It's about anarchy. It's about chaos. It's about, again, it's not having structure, people without structure. And I constantly tell people, Israel, just like a Palestinian, has the right to exist. And that's really what the battle is about, existence.
Right.
Because you have one side that wants to blatantly say it, wipe them off the face of the earth. It's not about land. Israel gave up so much land for the sake of peace. There's no peace.
And they've offered it, right?
Yeah.
They gave up land.
Yeah.
And they've offered it multiple times, right?
Yeah.
I think people don't know that.
And the media, if anything that we learned from the past 8 years or even more, we can't trust the media.
Right.
Or we can't trust going to the internet. We have to trust like reliable sources. And people that I know in Israel, people that are dealing with stuff. I have a friend who works for, it's called Magen David. It's the Shield of David, or where people get the Star of David. It's a medical team. And she's like talking about how, you know, working in the medical field, going out to houses and people getting hurt. They're Arab people, they're Palestinian people. I mean, Israel has all kind of people. It's not just Jews. The funny thing is, you know, the Arabs, you know what they look like. For the Jew, there's so many different kinds of Jews in the world that like they don't look the same.
Right.
And so she's like, you don't know who you're going to, but you're going to help them. It doesn't matter who you're going to. And that's really the reality of Israel, is to help. Like, it's not about, you know, necessarily land, because if it was, they wouldn't have given up the land. And I tell people they have the right to exist. And Israel said never again. After the Holocaust, like, we need a place where we can call our home without having to ever worry about something like the Holocaust ever happening again.
Right.
And people really don't get that. It's, you know, you have people who sympathize with terrorists that don't get that these people are terrorists. It's like they see what they want to see. And the media obviously broadcasts what they want to broadcast. And I tell people, don't get your stuff from the internet. And I tell people, it's like that quote from Abraham Lincoln: don't believe everything you read off the internet. It's like, they look at me like, he never said that. I was like, exactly. Like, half the things aren't true. And if they are, it's a portion of the truth.
Right.
Or anything out of context is nothing more than a pretext. We know what a pretext is. It's a whole lie.
What is the biggest lie?
The biggest lie is that Israel is basically the aggressors. They're not. They're protecting their people. When I say Israel's protecting Israelis, they're protecting Arabs, Muslims, people who have Israeli citizenship that live on Israeli land. It's more than just Jewish people. There's Christians. There's so many different people living there. They're protecting citizens. And people think that it's just, no, the government is just Jewish government. I'm like, it's not. There's Arabs in the government. There's so many different people in the Israeli government. The Palestinian people, they think, are being tortured, and they are. But by their own people.
Yeah, because I told somebody the other day, it's not like the people live in Israel don't feel sad for those people.
Yeah.
They generally feel sad. But
they call.
Right.
They call in advance, hey, stay away from this area. They fly over and drop leaflets of stay out of this area. We're going to bomb it in 2 days. Like, who does that?
Yeah, they're giving them a heads up.
Yeah. And people do. But what do they do?
Too bad those gangbangers didn't drop some leaflets over your house when you were younger, bro.
We're going to do a drive-by. We're looking for somebody. But it's like, the thing that people have to understand with Israel, it's about protecting life. And Israel doesn't fight with the sword. They protect with the sword. That's the biggest difference.
That's huge.
It's the biggest difference. It goes back to Nehemiah when they're working on the wall. It's, okay, if they come at us, yeah, we have swords.
One hand with the sword, one hand building.
We got to continue to build what God has given us.
Right.
And, you know, I had Christian friends go over there and tell me, like, with the intent of being, you know, sympathizing with, like, Palestinians. I tell them, go ahead. Go see for yourself. And they're like, you could tell who owns the land just by the way who takes care of it. And there's places where there's terrorists. They don't take care of it. They don't take care of the land. I mean, you could, an Arab could walk anywhere. A Muslim could walk anywhere in Israel. A Jew, there's certain places he has to stay out of.
I just read that recently. It's funny. I was going to bring that up right now. And I told a friend that today. You know, we were talking about it a little bit. And I said, do you realize, like, that an Arab can walk anywhere throughout Israel? And there's actually temples, Muslim temples in Israel that they don't touch. They respect it, right? Mm-hmm. Like we respect churches here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, but it doesn't work the other way around.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And that's, I think, the biggest misconception that's out there, that Israel, everything that they're blaming Israel for is what they're actually doing. And not all Arabs are like that. I show people video of, look, Arabs aren't going crazy. Like, it's not all of them. There's Arab people helping the Jewish people that are being attacked on the streets. When Ramadan happened, there was a call to kill Jews. one of my friends who's in London, she's a Yemenite Jew. She sent me a video, and she was so afraid to come out of her house because there was parades of Arabs yelling, "Kill all the Jews and rape all their daughters," and that's in London. And I was like, man, it's sad. And I you try to encourage them, like, God's gonna help us. He's always helped us. Like, have faith, stay strong. But at the same time, don't just go out there on the streets while they're doing that. Like, you got to be on guard and protect yourself.
You mentioned God's always helped Israel. Why? And how? How does this little country, surrounded by so many people that hate them, continue to thrive, continue to, let's be honest, be blessed, continue to be protected, to continue to survive?
It's all God. It's from the beginning. I think, like, all these things that happen, when you look at it from a biblical perspective in Scripture, things like this happen to draw people back to repentance, back to the presence of God. Even in this, you see people crying out to God, praying, struggling, but knowing who to call out to. So I believe that even in the midst of this, God's going to use that and draw his people back to himself, however that is. And sometimes that happens. We looked at Scripture. Yeah, somebody came in, conquered Israel. The Israelis
400 years though,
got it
going back and forth. Yeah,
it got back. They fall. It's like that. Israel isn't like this nation of religious Jews. It's like, yeah, there's secular Jews. There's Jews. Nonetheless, they're Jews.
It's so funny you say that, right? There is secular Jews
Yeah.
that just like anything, right?
Yeah.
We
It's like your family growing up Christian. You're not a Christian, but your family's Christian.
Yeah, growing up Catholic,
Yeah.
they go on Sunday.
Everybody's like telling me it's all about religion. I'm like, you got to understand, there's Arabs in the Knesset. They're not Muslims. They're Arabs. There are some Muslims, but not every Arab's religious. Not every Jew is religious. Like, it's a lot of it has to do with religion, but it's not. And I think, like, the biggest misconception is they think it's the Jewish people. Like, it's the Jews, the religious Jews that are doing this. The religious Jews are standing far back and running from it. Not that they're afraid. It's just like the conflict. I mean, imagine dressing Jewish with the hat, the yarmulke, doing all the stuff, and you're walking out. They're getting attacked.
Right.
Like, they're not even coming out anymore. And not that they're afraid. It's just they don't want to get attacked. I tell people, like, it has to come to the point where, like, how much can you take? And that's what Israel's at right now. Like, how much are you willing to take without, like, I've turned too many cheeks. Like, I'm just getting hurt now. How do I defend myself now?
Right.
And I think that's where we're at right now. And, one Orthodox rabbi is saying, like, it's this type of stuff that will usher in the Messiah, the Mashiach, and draw him closer. And as the times approach, we see that taking place, and with everything going on. And I really believe that, as when these things happen, honestly, we're not going to see peace. We're not. There's not going to be peace until one side's willing to drop their swords and stop fighting. And I told somebody, like, if the Palestinian terrorists drop their swords and stop fighting, there'll be peace. But if the Jewish people drop their swords and stop fighting, they won't exist. Like, that's just the reality.
That's the difference.
That's the difference. And I mean, you could believe what you want to believe from the media, but I tell people, go there. Nobody wants to go there. Honestly, Israel's safe. Like, it is. Regardless of what's going on, you go there, you feel safe, you feel protected. Even in the midst of Jerusalem, you feel safe and protected. But the element of knowing something could happen is always going to be there. But it is safe.
Where can people find the truth? And I mean that, like, where can they find the good information? I think people, we say Google. We learned from COVID where Google's leaning to, right? It's so difficult, and but you could still find information, right?
Yeah, you can
correct information.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just don't want to know the correct information.
And that's the thing. It's when you learn truth, it takes you out of you're no longer comfortable. It's like with the whole COVID thing. Once you start to learn the truth of what's really going on, it causes you to be uncomfortable. People get scared. They get uneasy because now this is the truth that I realize the truth. And I think with the same thing, it's realizing the truth and becoming uneasy and uncomfortable. And nobody wants to be uncomfortable. Even as believers, we want to be comfortable in what we believe in and not be challenged. I'll be honest, I didn't like being challenged before. I love being challenged now. I love questions when we're in our study. Like, ask questions. When they're not asking questions, I'm like, okay, let's shut this down. We're done. Like, this is the whole point of me being a teacher, the questions. But I think that's the problem. People don't want to ask the questions anymore. There's no more questions, and there's no more questions. We don't have to give answers.
It's kind of a scary scenario, right?
Yeah.
It's just being sheep.
And there's no accountability now.
You tell us where to go, we'll go. You tell us what to think.
And I'm fine with it.
We'll think. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to do that? Fine. I'm not going to question it. I mean, and people say, well, we're not the experts, or you're not the expert.
Yeah.
Why should we listen to you? Or why should we? It's not even about that. It's just like, find the truth. Did you know this?
Yeah.
Or do you know this? I told somebody the other day, I was like, at least, like, with this situation, we were talking about it too with another friend, and I said, I don't care what you believe, but as long as you have the facts.
Yeah.
Like, you can say, free Palestine or whatever, I'm with this organization or that, but as long as you know exactly what they believe and you'll stand by it and say, okay, you can ask somebody, what does that mean? What does it mean to be free Palestine? They are free. They're free to go in their country,
in and out,
wherever they want to go.
The Jew isn't free.
Did you know that? And they're like, that's not true.
Yeah.
The Jews will do something if they cross into their land. No, so you don't have the fact. Now, if you know that and you're still like, no, screw the Jews, we don't care.
Yeah.
Okay, I almost, it's bad, but I almost can respect that more because at least you have the facts and that's what you believe, right? It's the people that don't have the facts and they just believe what anybody tells them. That's the part that's scary to me.
It is. It's scary, especially in this day, because everybody wants to look smart but not actually do the work. Like, too many people, and it's especially people that have huge platforms. I say a whole lot of mess, and none of it's true. And I think that's what divides people who seek truth versus the people who know the truth. I mean, the people who are seeking truth and learning truth, they don't have platforms. They're just sharing it with friends and giving information and pointing people in the right direction. And it's kind of scary because it's like it's not being put out or broadcast. But, I mean, in the end, we know that God is going to continuously protect Israel as long as there's continuously returning to God. Just like us, every time we mess up, we cry out to God. We want him to help us and straighten us back out. And we see that. And it's a terrible conflict. And I tell people, I'm not anti-Israel. I mean, I'm not anti-Palestinian people. I'm not, Israel gave up so much for peace. But at what point do you say, okay, there's no peace, we're just going to stop giving up? Like,
it's almost like the analogy of, somebody banging on your door.
Yeah.
And you give them the front room, right? And they're still unhappy. And you're like, this is my house, bro. Like, I gave you the front room.
Yeah.
And then they want the dining room. Okay. Look, you know what? I'm going to give you the front room, the dining room, and I'll give you one of the restrooms. No, that's not good enough. Yeah. Right? And then they were getting mad about it and start throwing stuff at you. And at some point in time, you got to say, okay, stop. I don't want to hurt you, but you're forcing my hand here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. I've seen recent posts by you, and there has been an increase in hate crimes. Mm-hmm. Synagogues, people on the street. Why isn't that highlighted?
I don't think it fits the narrative. How can you report about Palestine, then report about this going on in the rest of the world? Like, I don't think it fits the narrative. I don't think it fits. It just wouldn't look right. How can I talk about, like, be pro-Israel, but then, like, blast Israel when they're not doing something right? It just wouldn't fit. It's crazy. I mean, I constantly tell people, like, you don't realize, like, the Jewish people are the hugest minority in the world. Like, you talk about minorities and the Jews owe everything. Like, no, like, they're the hugest minority. Like, the greatest hate crimes in the world. Like, our synagogue was actually targeted. I had to go and take out our Torah scrolls Like, those are the most expensive things we have in the synagogue. I'm like taking out all the things that are the most expensive that are like can't be realistically replaced. We have a Torah scroll that's 145 years old. Like, it was in the Holocaust, the Torah scroll itself. Oh, wow. And it has like, it was taken out of a burning synagogue, and you can see the burn marks on the Torah. And so that's like one of the things that I value. It's the word of God. Like,
so yeah, it would be equivalent to somebody's Bible.
Yeah. So we go and we take it out, and I'm just like, at first I'm scared. And I'm like, as I'm walking out and placing it in the car, I'm like, do we have to do this? Like,
yeah.
Today? Like, is this really happening still? Like, there's a picture that we have of a rabbi running out of a synagogue in Europe, carrying a Torah scroll, the synagogue's on fire. And I'm like, this, even though I don't look like that guy, is exactly what's going on. And our company where we lease from called us and be like, hey, your synagogue was targeted. A couple of businesses were targeted. We're going to board up your windows. Come get whatever's in there. Like, you need to get your stuff out because we don't know what's going to happen.
Oh.
But the cool thing was that there was a group of people that rallied, and they said, go home, take your stuff home, rest. We'll protect your synagogue. And it brought hope. Like, there's still people that care.
Non-Jewish
people, yeah.
Just wanted to help.
The barber down the street from us, like, he was out there. He's like, don't worry about it. If we need you, we'll call you. But don't worry about it.
That's awesome.
And, I carry in the synagogue. And I'm like, somebody asked me why. I'm like, to protect you. Like, that's my focus. Spiritually and physically is to protect you. I'm going to do it. Like, I don't want to have to do it. But it's sad that I will do it if I have to, and like, no place of worship should have to do that.
Right. I mean, it is sad that it still continues to this day.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah.
Do you think it's more a spiritual battle?
It's definitely a spiritual.
It's got to
battle.
be, right.
It's definitely a spiritual battle. Ishmael is still fighting for a promise that was never given to him. And though they got a promise and they got a blessing from God, it just wasn't the one they wanted. And that's what it comes down to. And it was funny because I was reading the other day about Ishmael, and he had the opportunity to fully become Abraham's son. It's just that he chose not to, and he chose his way. And the Torah, the literal Torah, when it speaks about him, it says he became an ass. Literally and physically. That a wild beast. But it uses the word ass. And it says that he went purposely to fight, to become somebody of the field, to be, without order, with just chaos. And it's said about him that when people plunder, they plunder wealth. But when Ishmael goes out to plunder, he plunders lives. Like, he does it for the life, to take life from people. And
yeah, a well's giving, right?
Yeah. And it's crazy because the rabbis actually say in the commentary that he had the opportunity to learn the ways of Abraham, his father, to walk in those statutes, to walk in everything, but he blatantly chose. And that's what people are choosing today. They rather choose the chaos because we go back to the structure. I don't like structure, or I can't handle structure. I need structure, but I can't handle it.
Or truth.
Yeah.
Structure and truth.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird, man. That we talk about that. You could have been the ass, right? In your family.
Yeah.
You could have been that guy that just said no, but you chose the structure and not the chaos. I mean, it took a lot.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What is the biggest stereotype misconception of Jewish people? And I have a few, right?
I think a lot of people.
Okay. Jewish people, they're greedy and they're about money, and it's just about them, and you can't trust them, and I always laugh at that, right? Because I'm thinking in my head, like,
or the features itself, you have to look a certain way.
Are the features, right? So you have they look like you, or they have the other ones that have
Yeah.
the curls, right? And
Yeah.
they walking down Fairfax,
Yeah.
you know. And then then you have like, I always look at like the New York Jewish people,
Yeah.
right? They just have that accent and that
Yeah.
look, and I love them. They look cool, but it's just there's always a misconception. There's probably a stereotype for everybody, right?
Yeah.
But those certain stereotypes are just like kind of out of hate. Kind of, they have like a little extra punch to them sometimes, right?
No, definitely. I had somebody come to the synagogue and just like, you must be the rabbi. You look like you know what you're doing. And the lead rabbi's there. And I'm like, actually, that's the lead rabbi. It's like, no. That can't be the rabbi. Like, you're the rabbi. It was funny because the guy was an Orthodox Christian, like Eastern Orthodox and a Greek Orthodox. And so we're talking and he's like, no. Like, we're talking. And he's like, okay, yeah, you're the rabbi. I'm like, I'm kind of like the assistant here, but okay, yeah. And we were talking. He's like, no, not that guy. But yeah, people go by looks. Like, they come to the synagogue and they're like, okay, you're the guy I need to talk to. You're the person. Like, I know you are. Like, well, I am a rabbi here. So, like, we end up talking. But yeah, it's the looks. It's the way somebody should look. There's like so many things. Like, there is a lot.
The money thing.
The money
right?
thing, yeah.
The money thing is the biggest thing,
Yeah.
right? Is it a misconception? Is it true? And are Jewish people just
Greedy?
more blessed or greedy? What is it? I mean,
It's I think it's a mixture. I mean, it's like anybody, you know, like any culture gets money. Like, yeah, you know, you have some rich Mexicans, you have some poor ones.
right.
It's in anything. And yeah, I think they are smart investors, but that's in any culture.
Right.
But
So we could say about the Asian culture, right?
Yeah, they're smart.
They come here, don't know any English, and they succeed.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's their own, start off at a store or business, their kids get educated, they're super smart. I mean, it's just part of their culture.
I think when you make efforts, God blesses those efforts with success. So if you're making an effort, then yeah, you're going to be blessed. But if you're not making the effort, how can God bless something that's effortless? There's nothing there. I mean, if you started off this podcast and it was just you sitting in here not interviewing anybody, there would be no success until you made the effort to, you know, reach out to people. I know it took me forever to get down here.
The rabbi, man, this guy's busy, man.
But it's if there's effort and it's done in the right way, there's gonna be success.
Right.
And yeah, there are rich Jews, we know that. But I think the biggest misconception is that they're greedy. Like, give me more, give me more. If you go to Israel, if you know any Jewish people, they're very giving people, because the essence, especially if they study Torah, if they love God, the essence is to protect life and give life. If I have wealth, how am I going to add to life? I'm going to contribute. I'm going to give charity. Like, they're big on charity, huge on charity. Every holiday is about charity. It's not just celebration. It's who's in need, who can't celebrate.
Hey, every building at Cedar Sinai is named after a Jewish person. Pretty much.
Charity.
Charity.
Yeah. But it is, even hospitals, especially, because it's about how can I contribute to life? How
That's true.
can we give where it's going to be life? And that's the essence of the Torah. It's to contribute to life, never take away from it. It's always how can we improve life, whether it's people dying. What can we do to bring life, healing, health? What do we do? What do we do to our enemies to bring peace, unity, wholeness? And I think that too in itself is a misconception that Jews just want to kill Arabs. It's the other way around. And not all Arabs want to kill, but there's a huge majority. And even in the midst of that, how do we make peace? Because we got to live here together. How do we make peace? And it comes down to that. It's all about life. How do we preserve life? How do we make life better? Not just for ourselves and our family, but for other people, our neighbors. If you're living next to somebody that doesn't have, even though you're not physically related, that's your brother. How do I give to that person?
That boils down to everything, right?
Yeah.
I tell people, like, you know, we've had these discussions on race and differences, and I said, you know, you want to make a difference, like, just do the easiest thing you do.
Yeah.
Go to your neighbor next door, meet them, ask them if they need anything, pray with them, say hi to them, love them. You know, we have different neighbors all on each side, you know, and do the small things. Where can you make the difference at? So many people are driven to hate, or so many people are saying that America is a hateful place, you know. And I said, realistically, how much hate have you got today?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like really hate that we're so spoiled here. If you think about it,
Yeah.
you know, we got it made here. There's things here that we can do. We're not living under fire. We're not watching rockets launched at us, and that's true hate. You know, we're not being killed. You know,
But even in that, even in hate, people are excelling through it in America. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's not as much as we say it is, right?
Yeah.
And I tell people, just boil it down to you today. You know, how much hate did you get today, and how much love did you put out today?
Exactly. That's tikkun olam in Hebrew. It's to be repairers of the world. How do you do that? One person at a time. What did you do today to make the world better? Because to save one person is as you save the world, because it's the world to that person. So what did you do today to save somebody's world? How did you reach out? And it's, you know, we're big on mitzvahs, fulfilling commandments, fulfilling things that God says to fulfill. But the biggest mitzvahs are always outward mitzvahs towards people, regardless if they're Jewish or not. What are you doing to show God, to show the essence, the presence of God to somebody else, to somebody who doesn't know God? I think that's another misconception. Jews only stick to Jews. No, they love everybody. You want to learn something? Come and learn.
Right.
Like, come sit in my class.
It's in the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
From one of the OG Jews, right?
Yeah.
Love God, love people.
Yeah.
If you follow those two commandments, pretty much you're
sums
gonna be good, right?
Yeah, because if you could keep those two, you could keep all of them.
All of them.
All of them.
So good, man. Bro, you finally made it.
I've been wanting to, dude. I know there's been a lot, and I know, like what we said, the whole fatherhood thing, all that stuff changed, but it's been. Not only is this a little break for me coming here, it's been. I love it, man. I watch it. I love it. I love what you're doing.
I appreciate it, man. I love what you're doing, and I thought it was important to have you here. And I like to bring people here, because I think people have a misconception about a lot of people, and if we get to know people better, I think a lot of those misconceptions will be brought down. I had a cop here. I got a ton of messages.
Yeah.
I had a white guy here, and everybody thought, oh, this white guy, he's a teacher. He must have money. This guy grew up so poor, dude.
Yeah.
And just like every other kid in his neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, he was probably the poorest kid. And I'm like, no, this guy achieved. And I look at you, man. We make the joke, drive-bys to rabbis, but it's literally, it is true.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you.
I'm proud of, I like seeing your posts. I like to be informed on your faith and everything in Israel, what's going on, and just go. I like to go to the source.
Yeah.
And I think if everybody went to the source, we'd understand. I have my black friends, you know, Ill Will, and I'll call him. Will, what's going on with this situation?
Yeah.
Break it down for me. And he's really objective about breaking it down for me, and it really helps me understand. And I wish more people would do that.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, it would make this world a better place.
It would.
I mean, but I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you.
Me and Camel have one thing before you leave, and I know you watch the show, so we're gonna do a little thing called the Furious Five here, bro. And we like to have some fun here, man. And it's five furious questions for the rabbi here. All right,
I'm a little nervous.
don't be nervous. It's easy. If you can go back and change anything, what would it be?
It's funny because I was asked this question the other day, and I actually prayed a while back, and I think going backwards, you kind of want to freeze time, right? I honestly don't think that I would want to change anything, because if I did, I wouldn't have the life experiences that I have now. And I know that probably sounds cliche, but I really wouldn't. Like, dude, there's a lot of pain that I would like to change, and maybe some mistakes I did purposely. Yeah, but even in those, I don't think I would have my relationships that I have now, like my faith, like that. All those things helped me to get to where I'm at.
It's an excellent point. You know, it's funny you say that, because I asked our friend, I forgot to ask him. Max242 is a phenomenal artist, and at the end of the podcast, he left, and I asked him, I forgot one question. And he goes, what? And I go, I should have asked him during the podcast, if he didn't go through everything he went through, does he think he would have been the artist he was today?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people, as you get older and you get to those things, you're like, man, all those bumps in the road kind of made me who I am today.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. All right. Question number 2 for the rabbi. Favorite movie of all time? Ooh, I might put you in a jam right here with your synagogue, bro. Okay, we'll do before you're a rabbi, and then after you're a rabbi, your favorite movie.
I think it's Inglourious Bastards.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, of course. Of course. There's a bat over there for you, bro.
Well, one of the names one of the guys gave me at the synagogue was the Bear Jew. So it was funny. Well, I like baseball, and then, the movie. So
that's funny, man.
Yeah, I like the movie. It's Quentin Tarantino classics.
Yeah.
It's
good.
It's one of my favorites.
Right. Solid. I should have known that. Question number 3. If you can only eat one food for the rest of your life, and don't say manna, what would it be?
Beans.
Beans.
Yeah.
Refried?
Could it be any type of bean? Like all beans, or just one type of bean?
Oh, is it all beans? You just eat beans?
All beans, yeah.
So you can refry them, eat whatever. Pinto beans,
chickpeas,
garbanzo beans, whatever.
Garbanzo beans, yeah.
Right.
I eat a lot of garbanzo beans.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Better watch out the gas, man.
Especially
in the synagogue, bro.
That's one of the biggest misconceptions of vegans, like, because they do eat a lot of beans, like protein. But it's like the gas thing wasn't true, because I thought, like, when I'm going vegan, okay, where do I get my protein?
So early on, that wasn't a problem?
It was never a problem. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it was the meat then gave you the gas.
Yeah, probably.
Hey. All right. Question number 4. Biggest influence on your life?
Biggest influence on my life. I lived with my uncle and aunt, Raul and Veronica, for quite some time. And even though he didn't physically and verbally tell me a lot of things, I watched his life. And looking back, I see myself making decisions based upon what I saw from him and watched. Between both of them. I mean, you know them, marriage counselors for years. And
believe me and my wife still call them to this day.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny, because she called me and she was asking for advice, and I was just quiet, like, I'm supposed to be calling you. Like, what are you doing here? But yeah, they've been the biggest influence on my life, as far, even in faith. Like, she has shown so much love and grace, and like I lived with them. Like, I was at the height of being an alcoholic, living with them. They probably knew. I think they didn't know, but they probably knew. And with all that, they never called me out. They loved me, and that made me ashamed. But just his work ethic, like everything that he showed me, like just by showing me, is really what I look back to, and how I kind of want to model my life. Like, this is what I need to do. This is what he would do. This is what my aunt would do. It's definitely them.
So awesome you had that in your life, man.
Yeah.
Just to show you. Yeah. Great people, man. Great people. I've known them for many years. Number 5. Easy one for you. Short-term and long-term goal. What do you got?
I think both right now are the kids. Like, regardless of how long or short I'm going to have them. In my mind, it's long. Like, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm also prepared for the short, but it's whenever they go back, it's to see that we imparted the presence, the beauty, the love of God. We know that it's going to go with them.
Yeah, it'll be
That
embedded.
there's things that they're not going to forget. Like, and I want to see that. And I ask God every day, show me that. I don't see it, but it's funny when we take them somewhere and people that know the kids are just like, these are not the same kids. Like, these can't be the same kids. Like, what did you guys do? It's just love them.
They'll always remember that, man. They'll always remember that. Bro, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Anything you want to shout out, man?
My wife, man. I seriously cannot do the things I do without her. Like, I couldn't be. Like, people think I'm extremely strong and all this. Like, it's because of her.
The backbone.
Like, yeah, dude. She's been a huge light in my life. Like, she's incredible.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you, Rabbi Erick Peretz. You guys faked me out for many years, thinking you're Mexican, and you guys are Jewish, man. You know what I mean? So, no, but I'm really happy for you, man. I'm proud of you, and I'm happy to know you. I appreciate you coming out, bro. So this will conclude episode number 25 of the Street Gospel Podcast. Check us out, subscribe, watch, listen, share. We'll see you next time. Peace.